Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you hear rain coming through your speakers, it's because it's raining here, but the show must go on. Today we're going to talk about Meta, also Google, but mostly Meta. Either way, both of them were illegally collecting data from a pregnancy app. This is not good for privacy anywhere in the United States. Here's what happened. A federal jury found this past Friday that Meta violated the California Invasion of Privacy Act, that's the wiretap law in that state, by collecting data from a period tracking app without users' consent. Now, plaintiffs in the class action proved by a preponderance of evidence that Meta intentionally eavesdropped on and or recorded conversations using an electronic device. Again, that's in the verdict that was released in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California. Plaintiffs also proved that they had a reasonable expectation of privacy and that Meta did not have consent from all parties to eavesdrop on and or record those conversations. Again, this is what the jury found. So, the lawsuit was filed in 2021 against Flo Health. This is the maker of basically an app for tracking periods, ovulation, and pregnancy. I actually have talked about this case a couple of years back. We finally have some resolution here. So, Facebook's owner, Meta, Google, and also an app analytics company known as Flurry were added as defendants later on. So, the plaintiffs settled with Flo Health, Google, and Flurry before the trial, leaving Meta the only remaining defendant. And that's why we are talking about Meta. Everybody else settled, etc., etc. Meta took this one to court. So the plaintiff's trial brief basically said that, quote, Flo allowed Google and Meta to eavesdrop on users' private in-app communications, end quote, between November of 2016 through February of 2019. Flo app users had to complete an onboarding survey requiring them to, quote, select a goal indicating whether they are pregnant, want to be pregnant, or want to track their period, as well as input other information about their pregnancy or menstrual cycle, end quote. So, Flo promised not to discuss this information, but gave access to Google and Meta, quote, via custom app events, CAEs, sent through their respective software development kits, or SDKs, incorporated in the Flo app, end quote. In other words, the Flo app was integrating Google and Facebook technology that would then allow Google and Facebook access to the data that any woman that was using the Flo app would put in there. So, the brief said, and I quote, each of the defendants had their own purpose for collecting and using Flo user data. Flo used this information to acquire new app users through advertising and marketing, including advertisements based on Flo app users' reproductive goals, example, getting pregnant. Flo also sold access to the CAEs sent through SDKs to other third parties for profit. Google and Meta separately used the data they intercepted for their own commercial purposes, including to feed their machine learning algorithms that power each of their respective advertising networks, end quote. Meta, for the record, is likely to appeal. They said they disagree with the decision, obviously, etc., etc. But this is one of the issues that we are talking about right now, and primarily in the United States, with the reversal, basically by the Dobbs decision of Roe versus Wade, there are some states that have essentially criminalized basically abortions and those kinds of things like that. So they would be able to subpoena data from Flo, for example, but they could get it from Meta or Google, which have been very friendly to law enforcement requests over this kind of data. There's no privacy there. Now, I don't care if you agree or disagree with abortions or Roe or whatever it is. That's not the point. The point is, this could be an app tracking, I don't know, vasectomies or something like that, and it would be the same issue. In other words, what we have here is a complete failure of privacy by an app that claimed to be private, giving it to two of the largest data miners on the planet, one of which settled, the other said, we'll see you in court, and they lost. So this is a huge one. It's a jury vote. It's been adjudicated in court. It is proof that Meta is illegally data mining apps. Flo just happens to be the one here. So there you go. I'll leave it at that. You tell me what you think, but quite frankly, if you are using, if you're an American woman here in the United States and you're using one of these tracking apps, you shouldn't. Because I tell you, and I promise you, this is the tip of the iceberg. Take that for what it's worth. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP, where there will be data mined, which is why I don't post anything personal on any of these. I just post videos like this, trying to inform people. Same with YouTube as well, where I hope you subscribe, not to mention Blue Sky and all of the others. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please attempt to stay private, informed, and secure. Take care.